Hello viewers, welcome to CodeForAny, Medicare App Backend API inside. Need to develop here the admin API need to developing here. Add CT details API need to develop. Let's start how to write down here inside the Node.js. First of all, need to making here the authentication tokens validations needs here. So need to first of all the write down here the functions of the check access tokens functions with here the user types. Now need to write down here the functions and we need to give this here the name check access token and to pass here the parameters header object, then after need this here the response object, then after callback, and last one is the required type. Where type by default need to set this here the blank like here's. Now we need to call this here the print this here the helper dot dlog and we need to print this here the header object. First one need to print here, then after need to check this here the helper dot check parameter valids, and we need to pass this here the response object, then after the helper objects need to pass here the header object, and we need to check here the parameters access token underscore token like here. Need to call here and to returning this here the callback. Now need to like here the check. First of all need to call this here the db query. We need to use this here the user id details this, and we need to paste here. Now we need to check here the access auth token like here, and we need to pass this here the header object dot need to pass this here the access token key. This token key you need to pass here and to get this here the value like here. Need to gettings and to check here for this data. Now after this getting here the results and not get here the this results, then to returning this here the response. Need to set here the status by default set here the 0, and we need to return this here the message. Need to write down here message inside access denied and unauthorized user access like here written message, and we need to write down here the code errors for 0 for like we need to returning this here the false response, then to getting like this here the response need to set here. Now if here's required type equal to not equal to blank, then to check here's if required type result, and we need to pass this here the 0 dot user type like this. Else parts need to same return this response. If not match, then to returning like this here the response. And need to return here the callback result value need to returning this here the 0 and this data against else parts here. If not required, then to always returning this here the response. Like need to write down and to save this and need to check here the access token methods need to creating here. Now need to create here the API for the add city for the admins. Need to write down here app.post and need to creating here the XURL and codes API we need to develop here. Need to write down here the API slash admin and to write down here the add city. And we need to set this here the request and response need to get here. Now need to print this here the body, the request body, request dot body like here, and to save inside the one variables request dot body like here. Now here's no any parameters are the needs here. That's why I need to not checking here the sorry for that. So need to add city. You need to need here the parameters. Need to check here. Helper dot check valid parameters. Need to needs here the city name and latitudes and longitudes also needs here. Need to pass here latitudes and longitudes. If this is the valid, maybe make mistake here array brackets. Need to write down here the response object request object sessions and return here the callback if valid. Then like this write down here. Like here the write downs and to set here. First of all need to before checking these parameters need to check here the authentication tokens. Need to check here most importance because this is the admin app. Need to call this here the check access tokens. Need to pass here the request dot headers. So need to pass here headers like here. Need to write down here. Need to check here typo. Need to fix here. Then response object and we need to return here the callback. Need to write down here the value of this callback. I need to getting this here the user object and give this here the admin check here like here's cut these lines and to put here's in this callback functions inside we need to write down here if valid then look like this here the setting here. Now need to call this here the db dot query and to write down here the insert query insert into give this here the city detail table. Need to call here brackets inside the column name city names and latitude longitudes. We need to put here change this here the single quote to values and we need to give this here the 3 value. Now we need to pass this here the parameters request object dot city name Then request object dots need to latitudes and longitudes also need to pass here. Remove one brackets. Set here longitude like here. And we need to get this here the errors and result like here. If we need to check here the error, then to call this here the helper dot throw HTML errors. Pass here error object and response. Return this here this functions help, but need to write down here. Check here if results need to bounce, then to successfully add this record need to set here the status, set here the one, and message need to write down here city added successfully, like here the returning this message and to call here else part. If not successfully adds, then to returning this here the fail message need to status as a 0 and message msc dot fail need to call here underscore fail like here. Now another API we need to developing, so need to get this here the city list need to also needs here for the checking. Again, so need to copy this here the API and we need to paste this here. Now need to write down here the API name, so need to change here city list and no needs here the parameter check, so need to clean here these functions and to change this here the name. Select query, you need to write down here, go here the tables, select here the city details, SQLs, select and to get here the city ID, city name, latitude, longitude, status, created dates, no needs here the modified dates, need to clean here and like here the query need to use here and need to write down here the status is equal to question mark and we need to always need to get here the one, then to get like this data and we need to write down here the returning this here the response, need to set here the payload result and message also need to set here the success msg success like here and like here the creating here the API for the gets here the city list and to save this here this value. If you like this video, please give the thumbs up. If you're new user, so please subscribe my channels and press the notification bell icon. You can get every new video notifications and awesome content. If you have any question, so please write down the comment sections. I will help you and sort out your issue. Everyone have a nice day. Goodbye and take care.